welcome anytime. We look forward to seeing you again next summer. We brought some pretty great people here over the years, but I'm particularly excited about tonight. What we're going to do is we're going to have Leah Davidson before the break, and then we'll have Brittany Baldwin after the break. And since Brittany here wasn't here when we started, I just want to say a quick hello to her. Brittany's standing over there by some of April's work. Yeah. And Brittany is on a short list of folks who have been to read at Ghost Town Poetry as a feature more than once. There's maybe a handful, 3 or 4 people who've done it more than once, and we're glad that she's back again. But we're going to begin with Leah Davidson, who has enthusiasm up the wahoo, according to her bio. And the next line on her bio is about this book, which is what I really want to talk to you about. Poetic Scientifica. Part of doing this gig is trying to read as much poetry as possible, go to as many readings as you possibly can, just kind of find out what's going on. And I already knew Leah and had heard her, and when I read this book, this is just one of the best books of poetry that I've read in years, and it got me excited about poetry, and it's a beautifully designed book. It's called Poetic Scientifica. It's available for sale here tonight, and I'm sure you can hear a little bit from it. From a press with one of the best names for a press that I've ever heard, University of Hell. I like that. And it says here that this book was Powell's 3rd best-selling small press book last year. And Leah is also currently produces Portland's Moth Story Slam, and I'm sure that she'll be willing to talk to you about that if you're curious. I'm just really happy that she was able to come. A good friend of Brittany's and a sweet person, a great poet, Leah Davidson.
Now I get to do the microphone dance. Let's see. I really think I'm loud enough, but we'll see if this I'll use. Does that work? Yeah. Good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited. And everybody's so good at poetry. Oh my gosh. I want to do something I don't usually do. It's kind of cheesy, but this is like such a song night. And I tried to write a song, so I want to do this. I've never read this out loud before. But this week I've been fiddling around with this song. I'm not going to sing it, of course. That's not how it's done tonight. So just go with it, and then we'll do other things. When I grow up, I want to be a toaster. I want to bring the hotness, the kind of girl you'd like to nail. And then when you grow up, you can be a rifle. You can be a hero. Promise not to go to hell. I'm going to be a hippie, get a job in education, and teach my kids how to rebel. And we can all fill airports full of people going nowhere, paying out BP and Shell. I want to be new money, buy a house down on Belmont, and bitch about the price of kale. And you can be a flag pin, join Congress, wear a pantsuit, and put the country up for sale. And when we're grown-ups, we can both be love notes, folded in our own reflections, like being happy's ever fair. And I could rant about evil like people don't care, and talk about truth like it's something to share, but it's weather and locusts and Twitter and war, and every subject that matters has a topic that's sore, and it's life. It's just chatter. No one knows what it's for. So when we grow up, we can all hold bottles. Oh, take our medication, swallow hard, kids, we can't fail. Let's be photos. Let's be poets, telling other people's tales. We'll be rifles, folded in our own reflections. Swallow hard, kids, we can't fail. We can all be flag pins, filled with people going nowhere, like being happy's ever fair. When we grow up, like being happy's ever fair. When we grow up, like being happy's ever fair. So there's my song. This is a newer poem, and then I'd like to do an experiment with y'all. I'm going to keep a good eye on that time. This is called I Know We've Never Met, But. Remember that time someone gave me your last book for my birthday, and it was dark and brutal and not quite as good as your first book? Because when I read your first book, you were still new to me, and you were real and soft and not so obvious. Remember how I could just think of a poem from your first book and I'd start tearing up, sobbing even if I was in the shower, and I felt like a cliche, but a really, really clean one? Remember when I fell out of love with you after I read your last book, and into love with Dorothea Lasky because she had nice glasses and a way of saying balloon that made my toes curl? And I went home and I put her books on the table in my bathroom where all my best books go. And I put your book beside Bukowski's book on the shelf in the living room. And all your ink words fell to the bottom of the page, and you didn't call me or anything. But now, when someone asks me about poetry, I say, hey, have you ever heard of Dottie Lasky? I'm going to read her poetry forever. So the book that Chris was talking about, the short definition is it's a one-poem book with a 114-page glossary. And what I was doing at the time is I was doing design research, and I was studying how people talk to each other. And I started learning about how language as we know it is really just, it's a leap every time we make a sound. So we make a sound, we think of something, we make this sound that is supposed to represent what it is that we're thinking, right? And we've all agreed that we speak the same language, which means that when I say a sound, you know exactly what that means, but that's not really true, right? I say cat, and what do you think? Maybe you think of an orange fuzzy thing walking across the top of a fence. Or maybe I think of my friend on a stripper pole, right? Very different things. But if I say like a cat and something happens, you don't know that it's a play on words, because you don't know what my experience is, and I don't know what your experience is. So whenever you're telling a story, or whenever you're reading a poem, you're actually telling 50 different stories, right? So I thought that was really interesting, and I got super obsessed with it. Also at the same time, I was reading a lot of Emily Dickinson, and dealing with the thing that happens when you fall in love with Emily Dickinson and other people around you have to deal with that, which is, I was like, whoa, she's a genius, like all these metaphors and crazy things that I didn't expect to see because everything sounds so simple. So I wrote an intentionally vague first poem, and then, but it has a point, like there's a real purpose to it, but you have to dig. It's work. And it probably will only mean what it means to you. But what I decided to do was for every word, which is an artifact of thought, I wrote another poem, hopefully to give you a new experience for that word, to mess with your definition of the word, so that when you go back and read the first poem, it has a different meaning. That was the point. So what I would like to do is I would like to read the first poem, which is 12 lines. It's maybe 100 words. I would like you to pick one word, okay, that means something to you, or that you think, oh, I know that word, I know what that feels like. And this is all about emotions and feelings, okay? So if you have like a poor memory, now is the time to get a pen and a piece of paper out, because it only works with the first poem, okay? Okay, I'm going to read this poem and think of one word. Oh, careful readiness, oh, cinders in the jaw, you fountains of bird song and velvet ropes, aspiring Marylands, maybe. I covet you, the way that you would have me do so. Climbing into our story, we build your image together, a person to love, an echo of the anecdotes that strangers tell each other. I cannot hate you for being the bathtub I drain my culture into, for shining myself into so many lights. Okay, do you have one word?
Yes.
Okay, give me a word.
Velvet.
Strangers. We might end up doing hands, but you know. Okay, strangers. Strangers tell each other. Okay, so this is my definition of the word strangers. Ready? After 7 years together, he turns to me and he says, when we first met, you said you'd make my life more interesting. I guess you kind of dropped the ball on that one. So I pack my clothes into a basket and I leave him just like that. I tell him, you can have everything else. Keep the house we made a home, the walls we painted, the pictures we took and hung. Keep the garden in the back and the kitchen table on which I kicked your ass at chess and Scrabble and Rummy. Keep the raspberries along the fence and the sauces I made in the cupboard. Keep the dishes I washed lovingly after Sunday breakfasts and homemade dinners. Keep the $120, 200-pound 1945 steel case Airstream desk I found in perfect condition for free and then snuck into the house without your knowing for a week. Keep the books we used to read aloud together, and taking turns at night and waiting for a tap to peel the page in case the other one was asleep. Keep the walking sticks we made along the Appalachian Trail, and the bracelet from when I thought going to Juarez was a good idea, and we almost died. Keep the car in which we drove to Savannah on a whim, the one we fought in San Francisco, the one we slept in the redwood forests after you left our tent stakes on a beach in Malibu. I remember what a dream that all seemed like. Keep the clothes that I mended for you, the buttons I sewed on last minute before your interviews. Keep the bed on which we conceived our son, and the poems that I wrote for you while you were sleeping there beside him after he was born. Keep the blanket he carried for his first 2 years and the pictures I took of him last week in the park. You can have it all, and what I will keep is what is left of my dignity. I have lost that flame for you. I am burned at both ends, and the broken parts you thought you'd fixed are just hiding between my rib bones, while I waited for you to fall in love, to forgive me for my folly, my lust, and spontaneity. I have folded myself into you, but have grown tired of your inertia, of playing your entertainer and failing over and over and over. I tell him, I have always been good at saying goodbye, bowing out before the screaming and the tears and the heavy on my knees. And you, love, have taught me how to feel these things all alone. I can't share these things with you. Good luck, though, finding someone, anyone who'll keep your interest. Next poem. What?
Echo.
Echo. Okay, so this only works if you think, like, what do you think of the word echo? That one was strangers. Did it work?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see if it keeps working. Okay, echo of the anecdote. Strangers tell each other. You ever have to memorize all the titles in one book so that you can get to the page really fast? Me either. Okay. Echo. I stopped counting the days when your eyes went photocopy. Forgot that we were ever every day, that we were see you in 2 hours. I can't wait for your lips, and your fingers felt like fingers. Dance me into Film Noir Beach, losing shoes and bioluminescent graffiti, and mean it. Really, really far away and back again. Your love letters were so stunning, the way you never wrote them. Too many to remember the way we were, before the flat black empty, before the flat black empty, before the flat black empty, before the flat black empty. Next poem. Velvet. 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 I want to gather the rubies that burst from the things that you touch when you're thinking. Collect every artifact and label it miracle. Reverse sign your bus tickets, used coffee mugs, the napkin you just placed on your lap. Every word I know becomes a shotgun. Next word.
Image. Image.
Image? I think I heard cinders over here. Okay, I'll do image and then I'll do cinders and then it might be time. We'll see. Okay. Image. That's so interesting. Nobody ever guesses that one. Okay. Image 61. I hope it's good. Okay. 61. Oh, this is for a good friend of mine. Image. Your expression is so proud. It is 1 hour until it is not your birthday anymore, and you are looking deep into every eye to make sure that we are all sincere until you have had enough to drink. You have been doing this all night. You are sliding your hand up my thigh in the kitchen, whisking me away to the anonymous open of the living room to kiss me where no one will see, because they are all looking at themselves in the black mirrors that windows make for the desperate awake. Your smile is easy, but the wrinkle in your brow reminds me that I am less sorry for ignoring you those first few months than for all the nicest things I ever said to you. You were right. I could never tell the future, only see potential, split the foolish from the thieves. You know which one you are. Happy birthday. I feel like it's too late to say you don't have to clap in between each poem, so I won't. This is my definition of the word cinders. And by now you know what the book is about, right? Okay.
Yep.
So, cinders. The way he says goodbye is by fucking you. It starts there. Next poem. I think we have, what? Bird song? Bird song. Okay, we're still doing okay. This is a really good time to say thank you to Chris and to Tony and to all of you here, and this has been fantastic. You're all so lovely. Thank you for having me. Okay, bird song. Our heartbeats are just feathers in their mouths. I get drunk to slow it all down until I don't get the poetry either. Until I'm coughing up feathers, covered in ventricles and thump bouquets. Okay, so we've got time for one more. Have? Yes, ma'am. Strangers tell each other. Have. Which one? Where's the number? Okay. You know, the longer you stand, standing on stage is a lot for me, like jumping off of a bridge, and I have done that. And with the bungee, of course, right? But the longer you're up here, the more the shakes happen. Like for me, I feel like I should relax more, but it doesn't. Okay, so this is my last poem of the evening. Thank you again. Have. The depression begins with you fingering hand towels that you can't afford in a store you'll never remember the name of, because you're consumed with how they remind you of the ones you dried the dishes with when you quit working to stay home with the baby, while he started his career at the job that you got for him so he wouldn't have to work nights at the bookstore, pretended to be him, wrote the resume and answered the emails. You researched how to ace an interview, picked out and ironed his clothes. He could buy you these towels if you hadn't left because he threw you across the kitchen floor, told you how much you owed him. But that money is for flowers now, for a woman much prettier than you, someone he's learned to be thankful for. Thank you.
Thank you, Leah. Noble Davidson. So glad that we finally got you here. And during the break, I hope that some of you will want to buy Leah's book. And you might also ask her about this fantastic event, the Mock Story Slam. So I'm sure she'll be happy to talk to you about that. And we'll be back in approximately 15 minutes for Brittany Baldwin and more open mic. If for some reason you can't join us for the second half, please come back on September 11th when our feature will be Risa Denenberg.